Let me just say one other thing that might not be popular. I have a tendency to do this. I don't think it's very constructive to go places and say only what people agree with and want to hear. Maybe this won't be. But I think a very significant problem with our movements is that they embody a set of values and norms which, whatever the motivation may be, come across as anti-working class, come across as uncongenial to working people participating. There's a lot of ways to think about this. I mean, the obvious way to think about it is exactly the parallel to the question that was asked earlier. If we have movements that are racist and sexist internally, that says to blacks and Latinos and women that the movement is sort of hostile to them. If we swash their aspirations and their culture inside our organizations. Well, we do that to working people. We create movements and organizations whose internal structure pays zero attention to our rhetoric about improving the lot of working people, because it replicates the structures which cause their lot to be horrible. Right? So that's the first way that this happens. But there are more ways that this happens. For instance, the way that I won't even take the hand wave, but the way that we not just individually not watch sports, right? But the way that we get a gut, visceral, hostile reaction to people watching or participating in sports, right? The way that we do that around religion. We are in the most sports conscious and the most religious country in the world. It is a little like if you were going to go to France and be an organizer but not speak French. It's not wise. Not if you want to win. Now, if the reason that you're going to French to organize is because you like the other organizers in France, and you don't give a shit about reaching the French public, okay, no need to speak French. Right? But if the reason that you're organizing in the United States is not to feel good about ourselves that we're moral, or to fight the good fight, right? But who cares if we win? The slogan "Fight the good fight" is, for instance, I find few things that, maybe some of you get nauseous about football. I get nauseous about fight the good fight. Because it says, who cares if we win? We'll just fight the good fight. Well, the fucking people who are suffering care if we win. Right? And I care if we win. And if we're not trying to win, what are we doing? Go to the goddamn beach. I never understand these people. If they're not trying to win, enjoy yourself. A little bit more, So that's a key aspect, and the extent to which we are not just. So, for instance, I went to State College in Pennsylvania. People heard me say this last night. There are other examples, but this one is just so striking. A room with 300 people, all radicals. I could have picked 280 of them out walking around the campus. That's how much like each other they looked, and how much unlike the rest of the campus they looked. Now, I look that way too, but at some point once upon a time, right? And maybe we have to understand something. On that campus, each Saturday, everybody goes to the football game, except the 300 people in that room. Really. I asked people to raise their hands how many people had been to a football game, right? 3 people, all black, raised their hands. The whole rest of the room, no. And they're all laughing because, of course, they thought that in the beginning of my talk, I was pointing out how wonderful they were, that they managed to rise above the horrible, lifestyle and degenerate morality of their brethren on the campus. So then I said, on the way here this morning, I passed a sports bar. There's a huge bar in downtown State College. State College has a population of maybe 60,000. The stadium holds 80,000. And every Saturday there's 80,000 people in it. I should tell you something. The football is this town. So you go past this sports bar. Well, this thing was really unusual for me. There was a huge bar. It was full of talking people, and they were big. There isn't a single person in this room, I think, who would have looked in place, even if they were dressed exactly like the people in that bar. These people were athletes. These people were huge. The women were big. The men were big. Everybody in the goddamn place was intimidating in some sense. So I came in that sense, right? I came into the thing, I said, after I did the football thing, I said, look, how many of you people have been down to the sports bar to organize? The whole room burst into hysterics. Right? They're all laughing, and they think I'm making a joke. Right? Meanwhile, if you don't organize the people in that sports bar, go to the beach. Because you're not organizing the campus you're not, what are you doing? That's the whole student body. Right? How can you possibly write that off? Right? And I honestly think if we ask what it is that we're writing off, oftentimes we're writing off working class culture and values and styles, which might be very disturbing, but if you think about it, what kind of music do we write off and what kind is acceptable? What kind of, McDonald's is unacceptable. Why is McDonald's unacceptable? Is it unacceptable because it's a multinational, or is it unacceptable because working people eat there, right? With good reason, right? Not with bad reason. They don't eat there to get sick, right? They're not morons, right? They eat there because it's inexpensive and it's actually not poison, right? And so on. So I think that it's important for us to that doesn't mean McDonald's shouldn't be a target for us. Yes, but there's more than one way to make it a target. Right? There's more than one way to talk about it. Every working class guy who watches football in the afternoon knows that those people earn, more on Saturday than he or she earns in, 2 years. It isn't just us who know that. They're not stupid. They know that. They also know, but we might know that about the tennis player. Or but we're okay watching that. But it's no good to watch the football. But it's okay to watch the tennis. Or it's okay to go to the symphony, but it's not okay to go to the hootenanny. What's the most popular sport in the United States? The most popular spectator sport?
Auto racing.
Oh, shit. Yeah, auto racing. And how many of you even know what an auto race is? Not very, well, some. That's more than most places. Huh? Yeah. I mean, these things... Now, am I saying that every person on the left has to be religious, sports fanatic, and into TV, in a profoundly way so they can talk? No, I'm not saying that. But notice what the reality is. It isn't that... I'm not saying every person has to. I'm saying look around. Nobody is. Right? It's not just personal preferences. It's a style. Right? And it's a style that is destructive of our capacity to reach out. Go ask any black organizer what they think of a white organizer who simply cannot talk about sports at all in the United States. You just, watch your chin while you do it. Yeah.
I agree with...
Stop there. Next person.
Now, hear me out. I agree with some of the points you're evidently getting to, but, fact of the matter is, all right, probably other people who are in a similar situation with me right now and are feeling this too. I don't drink. I don't like sports. I went to high school with a lot of athletic people. They made fun of me and called me a faggot. And, those aren't my people. I don't want to, go into a sports bar just because that's where the people are and I want to organize the people. I want to go places where I feel comfortable and those are my kind of people hanging out. That might not be a sports bar. It's probably a punk show or an open mic poetry event. And I don't see what's wrong with that.
Well, but see, I didn't say anything was wrong with that.
Working class people go there too. Why is this emphasis being put on sports bars?
But I didn't say you should go to the sports bar for pleasure. You didn't hear me say that. I said you should go...
Why should I go somewhere where I don't even,
Because that's where the population is and you want to win a revolution.
Population is also, at hardcore shows.
Well...
the population is everywhere.
Yeah, but we can agree to disagree maybe, but look at State College and the University of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
There's 300 people in the room. You can go through the campus and identify, 280 of them as being in a cultural minority that is quite different. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's something intrinsically wrong with that. But if those 300 people want to have the 30,000 people on that campus against war, they have to talk to the 30,000 people. If they don't want to, don't. That's okay. But don't make believe that we want to have that. Let me give you an example of doing this. Let me just give you an example of doing this. In the early 60s, well, I have the mic. In the early 60s, because I'm not here most of the time. In the early 60s, at MIT, the demonstrators around the war, the Vietnam War, most people at MIT didn't even know there was a Vietnam War. Right? So it was just completely. the people at MIT who related to the Vietnam War, or at Harvard, or at Boston University, who related to the Vietnam War demonstrations, which were small rallies on the Boston Common in 1965, 1966, 1967, right? The people who went down to throw rocks at the demonstrators, right? That's what they went for. By